Welcome back, Stelden here. Shadowlands is not too far off. I'm thinking probably about November. It's getting pretty close. The alpha's all done and dusted, the beta's in full force, everyone's getting in, or at least the people who've only recently unsubbed, they want to get those people back into the fold spending money. It's the long-term people that are fucked over, and we can expect to probably get in maybe at the end of October, early November. That's pretty much the way it works now. But what we've seen recently is a lot of the content creators, a lot of the guys doing interviews with Blizzard, they're trying to get to the bottom of why the player power is all tied to the covenants. And Ian's given his answer. I think he's given some pretty good answers to try and bridge a bit of a gap between the community and make them understand why they're doing it. From their point of view, it's all about RPG choice. They don't see it as choices and meaningful choices with consequences. They don't see that they should all be tied to just cosmetics and mounts and skins and transmog and things like that. They think player power should be in there too. I think to some degree that they do really believe that, and they're striving to make the best of that. Realistically, I don't think it's 100% in their hands. And I think that because I think there's a lot of meddling going on at Blizzard. I mean, you go back to 2018 and you see the state of BlizzCon. They are a shell of what they once were, and I think Ian is probably doing his best with everything that he's got, but he's been given direction. Whether it's Jalen Brack, it's Bobby at Activision, there's just no way that they're being given free rein to make all of these decisions. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I really do think that it all comes down to front-loading everything. They want the best possible experience for the players who buy the expansion, play it through like it's a single-player game. And we've seen with WoW, in the last 5-10 years now, the game's probably been in like a worse state than it's been a good state at this point. It's been all about that single-player experience, being able to do it all yourself. You don't need a guild, you don't need friends. You can experience all the content, all that the game has to offer, without even stepping foot in any sort of pre-made group finder. It's all automated. You can do it all automated if you want to. And it comes back to the fact that all of the content, it's all front-loaded. So that means when you dive into the Shadowlands, you go into the Maw, and then you go and do the leveling experience. You venture into some really fantastic looking areas. I'm not going to doubt it. Bastion. Great looking area. The art team, incredible. Revendreth. You experience all of it. And at the end you choose your Covenant. And the WoW guys, they found that experience is fantastic. What happens when you get to the end, you're choosing your player powers, the system just starts to fall apart. And it falls apart because of the fact that none of these decisions make sense in an MMO. They make complete sense in a single-player game, but not in an online game that's expecting you to sub for months on end to enjoy all of the content, to progress through raiding, Mythic Plus, PvP, whatever it is. It hasn't been designed like that. It's been designed to be enjoyed like it's a single-player game that you play for a month or so, and then the rest of what's there, they'll do their best to lock their tentacles in and keep you subbed, keep you playing. But that's not where the budget's gone. So I think that Activision, the head honchos at Blizzard, pretty much one and the same now. They're trying to just make sure that all of these people who go and buy an expansion and never play again until whatever the next one comes out, that all of those people continue to do that. And there's a fuckload of them. I'll show you. There are way more people who go and buy the expansion, maybe do the leveling stuff, maybe they'll step foot into a raid through the pre-made group fighter or maybe LFR, but that's it. Maybe they'll check out a content patch, whether it's like a Rise of Ashara or it's Argus. They might dabble, check it out, do the same sort of thing again, go through the core experience, and then they're gone. You'll get an expansion and a month here or there out of them. Blizzard know this, so that is why they're focused on getting these expansions out every 2 years where they can, and getting all of these people to keep on buying it and keep on progressing through it, because those people don't stick around. There's only 2 or 3 million consistent players actually playing World of Warcraft now. Not including Classic, that's a different animal, and that actually might change things at Blizzard, which is awesome, but the trend over the last few years has been different. If you take a look, Wrath of the Lich King Day 1 sales, 2.8 million. Now, at the very peak of Wrath of the Lich King, you were looking at around 14 million players. And if we go to Cataclysm, 3.3 million. Not so many of those people stuck around to some degree. It's really, really interesting. They might have bought the expansion, obviously, at some point, because we know the numbers didn't drop off to a significant degree. But the numbers stay consistent throughout, despite the player base really, really dropping. So even if we get to Warlords, Legion, and Legion had to suffer from the fact that WoD was considered the worst expansion of all time when it came out. And yet everyone bought Legion, the same amount of people. So what's happening? I'll tell you what's happening. So many people, no matter the reputation of the expansion, oh, BFA's shit, Garrisons fucking suck. There's just too many people who will always buy their new expansion when it comes out. They might have families, they might have busy lives now, but they're not going to miss that expansion launch. They're going to play it. Maybe they have intentions to play the whole thing, and then as they kind of dabble in and they start getting to the endgame systems, they think, oh, look, here we go again. I don't have time. That's it. Nah, look, I'm not going to play it. BFA rolls around. Yeah, let's get it. Shadowlands rolls around. Oh, yeah, well, we've got to get it. We've got to check it out. There's all this new shit going on. People are buying the new expansion no matter what, and Activision and Blizzard know this. So their goal is always going to be to make the core experience, that 10, 15, 20 hours that the person jumps into the game and enjoys what it has to offer for a reasonably short period of time in the grand scheme of things when it comes to MMOs, make sure they love it so they come around the next time. And if they get bored of the endgame system, that sucks. They might unsub. But they've already achieved their goal. They've got them to buy an expansion and buy a month's sub. What's that, $75 every couple of years? That's pretty good fucking coin when you factor in the development costs for the average AAA game in 2020. How many games can you develop in a 2-year cycle that you guarantee sales like that? There's not many. That is a massive gravy train for Blizzard and Activision, and they are going to exploit it to no end. And Ian, I don't think he's kind of in on that side. I think he's kind of given the cards, dealt the cards, and he has to deal with the consequences of that. And I think systems like the Covenants, they're box feature systems, and they go on there, that's what they're advertising, and Activision demand that those features are intact, and that they're the features that get the most work, and that they give those players who just buy that expansion the best experience that they can for their first week or so. Now, the problem with these systems is, and the way that they go about this with this mindset, is it fucks over the players who actually want to keep playing WoW. They want to do everything. They want to kind of go high in Mythic Plus. They want to keep PvPing. They want to progress in the raids, whether it's getting ahead of the curve, getting cutting edge. The players doing that are just consistently fucked over in the name of these box features. You look at BFA. People had to do fucking islands for months just to unlock mythic gear. That is an afterthought of a system because as Blizzard are rushing to get this stuff out the door to please the fact that Activision want to make sure that the expansion is a real self-contained awesome experience in its first month or so. That's what's happening. And so I feel sorry for those guys, the guys pushing cutting edge who are tearing their hair out at the fact that they have to go through these awful grinds and systems just to get to the finish line because Blizzard's resources are tiny when it comes to the endgame progression, what goes on for the players who are playing for months and months and months. They're the ones picking up the 6-month subs. They're the ones who are basically having to be drawn in with a storm out because the actual content in the game for that period of time is terrible. It's all happening because of this front loading that goes on for the expansions. Because Activision just want to sell, sell, sell. They don't care about the integrity of the game. As long as these same people, you can call them like the normies of WoW, they just come and check it out, they buy the box, they pay for a month. They're the ones who are bringing in the bulk of the money. But Blizzard and Activision, they're not doing what they can to make the game a really great experience all year round. And they're not doing it because it's cutting into their profits. They're not willing to play the long game. That's what Classic did. It played the long game. Do you think it was fucking cheap? Do you think that creating the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, all of those different areas, I mean, there's like 30, 40 areas across all of those continents compared to the 5 or so you get each new expansion. The reason that there's no WoW killer is barely any games have launched with the amount of content that vanilla WoW did. Had that leveling experience that was incredible. And it's still popular today because of how well done it was. And they haven't matched that because they're trying to ship copies. BC, that is the sign of a good expansion. It worked around the same lines. It may not have had in terms of the leveling experience, it might not have been as long. However, it had the endgame content to back it up. That is the hallmark of an expansion that wasn't designed with front loading in mind. There was a fuckload of quest lines. There was a lot of attunement, things like that, which made it a lot harder for players to just jump in, experience everything, and then go home, which is what is happening now. And the problem is that Blizzard's just not willing to go back to that. The game is falling apart in many, many ways. A lot of people say Shadowlands is the last chance, and I tend to agree in some ways. And Blizzard need to know that, Activision need to know that if they get this wrong, and the reputation around WoW, the reputation just around the general community that this is a piece of shit, this loyalty is going to stop. It's all around the brand name. World of Warcraft, it's so huge in gaming even to this day. That's why this keeps happening. But if it completely dies out, that even those core people who are still playing, they're still going through these awful grinds like Islands to keep up to date because Blizzard don't really have the resources when they're creating the expansion to put time into those endgame features and make them really, really interesting. It's not happening, and it's going to catch up with them. And the sad thing is, when that happens, when these same people come back because they want to check out what's new in WoW, they're not going to be able to because it's going to be in fucking maintenance mode. It's going to be like Lord of the Rings Online. Go and check that out. It is a pile of junk. And the original base game, Lord of the Rings Online, it matches vanilla WoW in some ways. I know that's probably like a hot take, but if you see Shadows of Angmar, the original, it is fantastic. Look at it now. It is a shell of its former self. Tenfold. Like Battle of Azeroth compared to like modern Lord of the Rings it's night and day different. And it's sad. WoW's going to get to that point if we continue to front load these systems and make the general community unhappy. They're so close, and I know that people say, oh, just open up the covenants. That'll make it really good for the long-term players. But I feel like their hands are tied behind their back. It's like Activision and the head honchos, they won't allow it because they don't want to infect and kind of fuck up what they have on the box feature, was that covenants, your choice matters. Your choices have consequences. They want to push that across. And it is not worth it. Even if you might take a short-term hit because it doesn't sound as interesting, perhaps to someone who's really casual and only buys the expansions, doesn't really go into much more than that. Who cares? You really think this figure's going to drop that much? It's really not. You don't need to keep doing this. You keep making things that sound good on paper. Warfronts. It sounds good. It sells good at BlizzCon. You go back to when people were talking about BFA, looking at those features, they sounded good, but there was no plan there. They were just box features to ship expansions. And to jump back to the point about the fact that they're kind of designing these features around things that are good in single-player games, you can kind of see the evidence of this. There's an MMO champion thread where someone's talking about other RPG games with irreversible gameplay customization that are similar to the Covenant system. All the examples you're going to see: Fire Emblem, Fallout, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Knights of the Old Republic. All of these games are single player. There is not an MMO out there that is doing that sort of thing. And they're not doing it because they're not focused on shipping copies. Because they don't have the luxury of selling a $60 box copy every 2 years. That's what WoW's becoming. It's about shipping that expansion and fuck all the regular players. It's it's just going to bite them in the ass, and we're the ones who are going to suffer, the people who've been playing a long time. We just want to play a competent MMORPG, and we can't. They want us to play what's basically a single-player RPG, maybe just keep subbed, keep it ticking along to get a store mount, and fuck everything else. Now, this is really scary because it tells me that MMOs are essentially on life support. Maybe we didn't need this to know that. I mean, they're far out of the mainstream. But I saw the Old Republic on Steam today, free to play. A lot of people were excited. Maybe they hadn't had the chance to play it, and downloading a new launcher to check this out wasn't worth it to them. But it's really sad because it brought me back to a time when MMOs were at their absolute peak. In terms of at least popularity, you're probably going back to around 2010, 2011. That was really the time where they were the in thing, and it seemed like anything was possible. A few years later, we're back to the things that WoW are doing now, which is like mobile phone games. Yeah, we've got Final Fantasy XIV, but not everyone wants to play like an anime-style game. And I say that as someone who enjoys Final Fantasy as a series. I really do. I don't want to play an MMO where every day I have to log into my anime character. It's not for everyone. And then you've got Elder Scrolls Online with a fucking disgusting cash store. Classic Bethesda, modern Bethesda. No one wants to play that shit. It's just the diehards once again. And they're the ones who are keeping WoW alive. People who will... It doesn't matter what they dish out. People will keep arguing with Blizzard over the gameplay systems. And yeah, they suck. They should come to the table. They should find a way. But they need to put all of their energy into the endgame systems and making the longevity of the game, actually playing it month in, month out, enjoyable. That's where the resources should be going. It should not be going in leveling from 50 to 60. That's going to take me about 5-7 hours, and you've put in the bulk of the work into that experience. It's time to move on. That's what MMOs are meant to do. They were meant to evolve. New things were meant to happen. I played RuneScape in the 90s. Then I played World of Warcraft. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is insane. Are we going to be, like, VR? Are we going to be in Azeroth in a few years? No. Instead, we're looking at a mission table, clicking a few buttons, and collecting meaningless rep. Time gating. That's the only thing they can do to keep people playing. Because Activision won't make the decision to look at the long term instead of the short term. Once again, I think Blizzard's doing the best they possibly can. I think the team is wonderful in many ways. The art team, incredible. I think the design team is doing the best that they possibly can with the cards that they're dealt, but it's like butting heads in some ways. And Blizzard need to find a way out. Their QA team is gutted. That'll happen last year. The 8.3 was a pathetic patch launch. It was a joke. And I know a lot of people who stopped playing because the world content was utterly atrocious. When you compare it to things like Mechagon and Nazjatar, the quality is just so low it's not funny. And it's you can see the result of what happens when they front load an expansion like that, because that's what's happened there. And I mean, those big patches, yeah, they're treated a little bit like expansion launches. Once again, everything's front-loaded in the first week of the patch. That's just what's going on. But it needs to change. I'm hoping that Blizzard can do it. I hope that Activision see a new direction. They've had success with games like Sekiro. They see what happens when loyal, die-hard fans like something. It guarantees sales. And I'll tell you what, if you make World of Warcraft year in, year out fucking amazing, people not only buy the expansion, they will stay subbed and you will see double the money. Surely that is something that Activision can get behind. Thanks for listening, guys, and if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be looking at some more stuff real soon. Thanks very much, and bye for now.